I have to admit, the thought of homeschooling is a really scary one if you do not know what you are doing and you've never done it before. And hey, I think that it's really interesting that my parents told me that they found homeschooling actually a lot less stressful than sending their children to school. And I thought, well, how can that be? And then I stumbled across this really interesting article from redheadmom8.com, and in it she was listing out 50 reasons why homeschooling is less stressful than school. And I thought, that's really interesting. I'll have a read through, and I found it really interesting. And so in this video, I'm going to be just basically telling you back a few of the points that she had, and we'll see. We'll have a look. We'll compare them. My parents said that it was, so it's very interesting. Let's go for it. Before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. I'll be releasing more videos like this to keep you inspired, informed, updated. Yes, so please like and subscribe. One of the ones I found in this article was that it is less stressful because you do not need to wait in the morning at a freezing cold bus stop or out in assembly with your kids. That's pretty boring and very cold, and in that way it is less stressful. Also, when you go to school, children tend to get sick more. Oh my goodness, think about daycare as well, lice outbreaks, that sort of thing. Children get less sick. That's pretty good. It's also not nuts in the morning when you're getting your children ready for school. There's no rush. You just slowly get into things and you start homeschooling, reading the Bible. It's a very slow start. It's less stressful. Children can process things a lot easier. And you're not shouting on the kids to get their shoes on. Quick, go. Another reason homeschooling is less stressful is that you don't need to answer to anyone. So you don't need to explain to the teacher that you've had a really stressful week and that somebody has died, and then we haven't got these things done that you need to have done. No, you are in charge of your children and you answer to yourself for their education. There is much less bullying, there's much less peer pressure when you homeschool your children because you are in charge of your children and you can control those things a little bit better. Isn't that good? I find it interesting that a lot of the time the reason people start homeschooling is because there is bullying issues at school. And they start homeschooling because they know that there's going to be no bullying, or at least you're going to be able to see the bullying that is happening inside your own home. What about the busy work in school? Not only the things that you need to be signed, little slips of paper, excuses for different things. You don't need to do that because you are the teacher, you are there. And the children also don't have busy work in their curriculum. That is fluff, stuff that they already know, or things that that's not actually helping to educate them much, and they don't have this at homeschool. No PTA meetings, enough said. Now, not every school is going to struggle with things like shootings amongst students and bomb threats, but hey, it is something that might weigh on the minds of some parents, and when you're homeschooled, you just don't have these issues. What about having kids who are quite unruly and they're distracting your children who would be quite happy to sit down and do their work, but your children are just not in the right headspace to do work because you have all these badly behaved kids around distracting them? You don't have that in a homeschool, so it is less stressful. A homeschool teacher, because it is a parent, is generally more invested in their children's education, and so the children go further. You don't have apathetic overwork teachers, or at least if they are, it is you. You connect a lot more with your children when you homeschool them, and this way it is less stressful because you're not sitting there so much of the time wondering what your children are thinking because you're actually really friends. I was best friends with my dad, with my mum, with my siblings, and we knew each other really well. But when I went to school, I felt like I didn't have as close a relationship with my parents because I just wasn't there. And then in the mornings when we would get together, get ready, it was actually pretty stressful. It was go. I didn't have much of a chance to get to know them. And then the evenings when we came home, Mum said I would cry until I had a really long, hour-long sleep. And then all of a sudden it's dinner time and it's ready to go to bed, and that's the day done. So you only have the weekend to connect on, and you're recovering from school then. So when you're homeschooled, you have all that time with your family together and you do connect a lot better. You make better bonds, and children generally get along a lot better. It is a lot less stressful because a lot of homeschool children are actually best friends. A lot of people find that when they homeschool their children go from fighting each other to becoming friends, and that's a really beautiful change to observe. Redhead Mum 8 made a really interesting point. She said, "No secular humanism being shoved down my kid's throat. Don't let the government school fool you. This is the religion of the schools." And I think that's a really interesting point to make. If you send your kids to a public school, they will be taught secularism basically. But if you homeschool them, you can teach them what you believe. And for me and my family, that will be Christianity, that will be the gospel. And that is a lot of the reason a lot of parents do homeschool their children. Another reason homeschooling is less stressful is that children are not shoveled in and out of classes all the time and interrupted from work that they're doing. They can work slowly on something that interests them. Another thing is that children can learn about sexual functions whenever they want to. They don't need to learn about it when some kids shove an image into their face when they're at school. They can learn about it when you teach them about it, and I think that's really helpful. Okay, and this is a huge one. You can teach your children to be entrepreneurs instead of just putting them on the college road. Now, the college road is not always bad, and some people find it really helpful, but I think that a lot of the time the college road is a real drain on your resources. Especially these days, you can learn so many things from YouTube and start your own business. And I know so many homeschoolers who have a lot of business acumen because they learnt it when they were young. They started at their entrepreneurial venture around about age 12 and have just kept going on that, and some of them are millionaires now. It's amazing to see. And you can do that when you homeschool your children. If you do want to get your children to college, then children can often enter at age 13, incredibly young. There is the Harding family of homeschoolers, and they got pretty much all their children into college by age 13, so you can start a lot earlier. Talk about giving your kids a head start. What about things like life skills, home economics, teaching them to hammer in a nail correctly? There's a little bit more theory to it than you would suspect. What about using a drill? Those sorts of things. You don't learn a lot of these things at school. You need to be taught at home by your parents. And what better place than in the homeschooling environment? I really like this one from Redhead Mum, and she says, "My kids are not stuck in the building on beautiful days." My husband is a surfer and he loves to surf, and often he will go to work and he'll say, "It's a beautiful day, I just want to surf." But if you homeschool your kids, you can take them out on these beautiful days, and you can do your homework on maybe perhaps the not so beautiful day. So take advantage of the great outdoors. Another part about homeschooling that is less stressful is that you can learn things when your children are ready. So you don't need to force them into learning before their time. And in that way, they're going to learn a lot more because they'll be more interested in learning it. Something really interesting and something small that I picked up, but I think that would have a huge impact on a lot of teenagers, is that their body clocks are set. So they want to wake up later and they want to stay up a lot longer into the night. And so what that means is if your teenager goes to bed at midnight and then they're forced to get up at 6:30 so that they can get out of the door by 7:30 so they can get to school by 8 and then start work then all of a sudden they've only had 6.5 hours sleep. But if you homeschool them, they get that 8, probably 9, 10 hours that a lot of teenagers need to be really on top of their game. And so their brains are all there. So when you set homework or you set work in front of them, they're more interested in doing it because they're well rested and they're going to do it better and they're going to enjoy learning better. Whereas at school, they're sitting there half dazed. And by the end of the week, having had 6.5 hours, that's assuming that the kids go to bed at 12 o'clock. A lot of them go to bed even later than that. They've got this massive sleep debt by the end of the week, and that can be really damaging and can build up. And that's also probably why they just want to sleep in on the weekend and then it's over and boom, we do it all again. And these are probably some of the reasons why my parents said that homeschooling was less stressful. I know that they were very keen on the school holidays, not doing the holidays on school holidays. That was one of their big points and they always point that one out to me. So I hope that you found this really interesting and you've realized why homeschooling might be less stressful than school. And yeah, I hope that you find this helpful. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for listening. Bye.